Hello folks, LA Little here with TA Today, and I'm bringing you an update on where these markets are and some trading opportunities. So let's first start with the markets and where they are. I've got the Qs up. The main thing to focus on here is the bearish retest region, and that's right here off of this swing point low. So you know, when you look at this, what you have is you have a breakdown, right? Comes back up. And what should happen is this should regenerate to the downside on the first test. And that's where we're at. This is the first test. They tried to take it down today. They jammed it back up. They still are unable to get over it. Now, on the SPY or the S&P, others, they've gotten over it. The Nasdaq, the broader Nasdaq has, but the NDX has been unable to do so. And that's important because the NDX has been the main driver, right? And so if you can't get over it, something's wrong. And then of course, if we flip over and we look at the SPY, now the SPY just hit a wall of sellers again. Now, if you pull up the weekly, you can see that there's been a lot of resistance up here. Every time it gets up here, they sell it. Well, what did they do today? They got up there, and what did they do? They sold it. They sold it hard. They jammed that thing down, you know, on the open. In other words, it gapped up, started out opening right there. And what they do, they pressed it down almost the entire day. You got a swing point high up there. If you break over it, right, that's the 7,000 level. If you break over it, then the question is going to be, can you extend? And right now with the Nasdaq, the NDX like it is, I doubt that you can extend. And that's kind of been my premise for a while. We'll see if that continues to be the case. Now what we're starting to see is AI disruption. I'm going to go to the broker dealers here, IAI. Let's look at it on the daily first. What you see here is a push down, a bounce into what? Bearish retest regenerate to the downside, right? And volume's coming out of this thing in various places on the way down. Now, this is a little bit thinner, so it's a little hard to, you know, to decide if the volume means as much as you usually would apply to it. What do you have here? This is the weekly. So you have this nice big run up, and it just flattens out. Starts a new leg up, and what do? They break it down. This is your bullish retest region. When you trade into it, what you should see the first time is a regeneration to the top side. What do you got? Failure. That's a big thing. That tells you if this thing is weaker than you think. And if it's weaker than you think, you definitely don't want to be long. If anything, you want to be looking at shorts. What's the target? Well, the target is this swing point low. And eventually this retest regen over here on this swing point. And so that's down around 160 or so. It's trading at 171, you know, 11 bucks on 170, 7% or so. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad trade, especially if you get a bounce back into this bar. Go back to the daily over here and see if you can get one. And yeah, you probably can. You can probably get a bounce right up into here. That's the short. Where's your stop? Well, yeah, I'd probably have it up here somewhere, a little bit higher, maybe in the top of that bar, because that's where the volume anchor bar is. Maybe you take a risky here, but you know, if you trade it with a stop there, you know, the risk of you stopping out is a lot higher. But you know, if you pick it up there, you're trading for 14 points to the downside, so about 8%. Let's look at one other one that's getting disrupted. It's the XLF. Something's happening over here. Now, I can't tell you why it's acting like it is, but something's wrong. And what we got is a break of a swing point low today. This is going to break, I believe. Let's check it. 52.76. Yeah, that will show up tonight as a break. And so we'll have a break of a swing point. So this will be a bearish retest regen, this zone. If you see the volumes here, right, almost all your volumes are coming out of the top, you know, on the way down. So my take is that when it pops up into do this retest regen, which is the bottoms, right, of these big bars, it's going to regenerate to the downside. So the trade is to catch that little bounce up in about 53.10 or whatever that is. Looks like about 53, yeah, 53.10 is a good area, and trade it to the downside. What are you shooting for? You're shooting for the swing point lows over here on the weekly. If these break, this is going to be a big deal. That's down around 51. So You short it on that little bounce, right? Put your stops up above it, and you're shooting for this 51 and a potential break of it, which would take you to the bottom of this retest region, which is this big bar over here. Now, this has been tested multiple times, and so because it's so wide price spread, my guess is it will hold even though it's a big test. But you're shooting for this area down here. That's a pretty good return. You're shooting for about 10% at least on the way down. And the thing about that is that's heavily weighted, right? So you've got a heavily weighted sector that's struggling to hold up, being disrupted. And another one that's being disrupted, SKY. Look at this one. So here's the SKYY, which is the computing, and you got a bounce. A drive down. You bounce. You haven't quite gotten back to the bearish retest region, and they hammer it lower again off a little doji the day before. Now it may get back up here. The problem is if you want to short this, you got to give it space. You can't. You got to have your stop up around 120. Actually, that's 122. Let me see. The top of this is 121. So you got to have your stop 121 and a half, 122. And what are you shooting for if you go to the weekly? You're shooting for a test down here. So this one not as good of a setup right now. You'd want to wait on the bounce to take it because the numbers just don't work right now. And let's see, what else did we got? Oh, I wanted to show you going back to the majors. This was a Gravestone Doji on the Dow Jones Industrials, and so it tried to get up there today. Right, close back down. It's coming into this big bar, right? It's also at that 50K number, which is the round number. If it gets back below it, it's going to come back into this area here, which is another 300 or 400 points down. So it looks to me like the Dow's probably going to trade lower, not higher. And if I go to the small caps actually had a spinning top back here, right? Gravestone Doji, and it looks like that's going to hold. It was trying to come back towards it today, sold it off. Let's look at one or two more here. I don't want to make it too long. I'm trying to be respectful of your time. I talked about Jets before. Jets is coming back. You can see over here it's coming back into this bullish retest region. There's actually two of them there, so I think this is going to be a good pickup when it gets back in here. And so I would be looking for this zone as a place to buy. I personally always have a hard time with airlines, so I don't know if I'll trade it because it seems like every time I do, I lose. The swing point highs over here, 27. If we go back over to this one, 27 gets us down below these. So yeah, it's a hard one. If you're going to trade it here, right, you're just going to have a stop underneath it in case in case it takes it down. I don't know if I'll trade it or not, to be quite honest with you, but it's the setup. The setup's there, and it should bounce the first time. Well, actually, it's the second time on the test. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm probably waiting myself. I'm probably waiting for a lower push. If they could bring it back that far, right, bring it back a straight line, bring it back to 27, it's probably a sweet buy. That's probably where I'm looking for it. KRMN. Now, this one is a hard tell. I don't know if it's going to work or not. You've gone up, you broke out here, you've gone way more than 6 bars. That says that the probability that it will bounce from here is very high, and it's into it. You got, you can buy in this area, right? Your stop's down below, so you're risking probably 3 if you buy at about 78. What's your target? It's back up around 100. You'll have first resistance at this ledge, but if it gets over it, it's 100. So even if it's back to the ledge, you're looking at 12 points. You're risking about 3 or 4. This looks like a good risk reward. It's a little worrisome because of the way it's coming back. Because here it also was a first test, but it wasn't more than 6 bars. But if you do get the rally Thursday, Friday, this will actually hold, which is what it should do, and try to regenerate, which sets the trade up. So you don't risk a lot, and you got a good setup. And as you can see over here, this has been a very strong performer. So I kind of like this setup. I'll probably try to play it myself. Moving to one more, here's the mags. Mags, something wrong, folks. These are going after the swing point low, and it looks to me like they're going to break it. There's your swing point low. They've tested it. They tested it. Didn't have enough volume, right? Tried to bounce up. Still haven't been able to get anything out of that bounce. If I go over and look at it on the daily and blow that one up for you, over here, you can see that swing point low is tested, got the bounce. Now it's coming back to test it again. And this low over here is the one we just looked at on the weekly. If I look here, I've got some bearish projections down to 61.47, 61.74. Both of those would take us down to break that swing point low on the daily, and 45% on the MTTF, so not extended. And I think that's it. That's it for today. Plenty of other names, but I try to highlight the ones that look the most interesting to me on this evening. So I'm doing this about 6 o'clock in the evening, West Coast time, on February 11th. Hope you like it. If you do, give me a like, give me a subscribe. Share it with others. I would really appreciate it, and I do appreciate you being there. Have a great one and stay safe. I'll see you next time.